You know you should be doing more video content, especially on YouTube. Today we're going to give you the video blueprint of exactly how Noah Escobar, as a 24-year-old, has generated over $150,000 worth of GCI directly from YouTube videos. All right, if you're a real estate agent that is really looking to take your game to the next level, find some ways to passively prospect, video is the best way, and not just any video, but video specifically on YouTube. Got Noah Escobar with me today. Pretty amazing story what he's done over his first few years in the business, utilizing YouTube in a pretty dramatic way. So Noah, if you don't mind, just kind of give him a little bit of a background on how you got started, kind of what some of the results have been, and then we're going to get into the practical steps on exactly what you can do and how you can follow this blueprint to be able to do this in your local market.
Awesome, I'm excited to be here. I remember when I was 19, I was doing video production for my church, started interning with you, seeing what YouTube can do for your career. I knew I had to do the same thing for my career. So what I started to do is I started full-time sales in January of 2022, a couple months in, maybe about a year in. I started working on my YouTube channel, and since then I always created a sales funnel of doing community videos into listing videos and into infrastructure videos. So kind of doing that know, like, and trust process, but I kind of seen it flip on its head a little bit to where the biggest lead gen right now is infrastructure updates. So basically filming 10 seconds of me doing an intro and outro, and the rest is a voiceover covering 3 different developments with drone shots.
Yeah.
So there's so many people in our community that want to know what that pile of dirt's going to be eventually, and that's what starts most amount of conversations.
Yeah, and one thing we're going to do is we're going to break this down on your logic on exactly part of this process. We're going to give you the blueprint on what to do in each of these videos, how to script some of these things. But let's talk a little bit about that. So you talked about it kind of flipping now, and with the lead generation side. Let's kind of go through what is it that you're looking for as far as a specific area, because somebody that's out there just getting started, what would you start with? If you were starting over now knowing everything you did, what would you start with?
I would say the first thing I would buy is a drone over a camera. I think a drone in our day and age, there's so many things you can do, and it's like an Xbox controller at this point, right? It flies itself for the most part. Film the intro and outro with your phone, do the rest as a voiceover, and I think putting the amount of value through those videos out is going to start the most amount of conversations, more so than the high production community videos and listing videos in my case. And we live in a secondary market, so there's a lot of investors and developers that are actively looking for our area. They want to know what these developments are going to be to impact their property's value in the future. Yeah,
listen, if you are afraid to fly a drone, look, I don't own a drone, but you can hire these things out. Sure. Just know that. We're going to talk about both somebody that wants to hire this out, somebody that wants to learn how to do this. I think the best way is, obviously, it's hard to hold somebody accountable for something you don't know how to do. Yeah. I know, and when I started in video, it was not the best, but I did all of my own editing. Right. And so that gave me the ability that when we started working together and when I was working with Tim, I had an understanding of what I wanted it to look like, and I understood the process a little better. But a lot of people are doing that now. You've got all the skills and you're hiring that out now. So we're going to talk about that process. Let's talk about let's break down a specific one of these videos. Let's go through all 3, but what does it look like and what's the process? Let's start with those infrastructure updates and explain exactly what that is and what they look like.
Yeah, so for an infrastructure update, I find 3 to 4 developments that I think are going to have the most impact on our community. So oftentimes, like our last one we did was 4 new neighborhoods coming to Santa Rosa Beach, because a lot of people want to see not only what's existing inventory, but what the future is going to look like. So again, 10 seconds on camera, doing an intro saying, hey, I'm excited to talk about these 4 new neighborhoods coming to the area. I think it's going to have a drastic impact on the not only supply of new construction, but what's available out there. And then I cover different neighborhoods, have everything as a script that I basically read off, doing a voiceover. So I have a Shure mic that we use together, and it's a great way to kind of provide value without trying to memorize everything, because I think that's the biggest hindrance for a lot of people. And then filming an outro and saying, like, there's a lot that this has to do with impacts and how it impacts your property's value. But if you want to talk about it or brainstorm ideas about how this can positively or negatively affect you, let's hop on the phone call and let's talk about it.
Yeah, and let me say this. If y'all want copies of kind of his flow of this, just know we'll have those available. They'll either be down in the comment section, or you can email me, JimmyBurgessRealtor@gmail, and I'll get these over to you. But let's talk a little bit about this, because the intro, you've done it a couple different ways. Yeah. When you first started, and I would encourage everybody, go over, follow Noah's channel, because he's testing these things. You don't have to test them yourself. Right. You can see how they do in results-wise on his channel, so make sure you follow his channel. But one thing I would say, or subscribe to his channel, one thing I would say is, with these, you'll notice that you've done a couple things. You talked about the selfie video. That's what you started with, right? And then you now sit in and you actually read it off, the intro, and then you read that where you've got that microphone. Yeah. Here's a little pro tip. If you're going to have somebody else shoot this for you, if you're going to hire a videographer, one of the things that you can do is think about, if you go ahead and do the voiceover. Just instruct that videographer, and most can do this, to shoot to based on what the things that you're saying. So in other words, if you're talking about there's going to be a certain number of lots, do a drone shot that flies over and kind of shows that, correct? Right. Those types of things. So any other instructions that you would have that you give now to the person who's doing these things for you?
I'm lucky in where I'm at in life, being at 24, where I kind of have the flexibility to do a lot more things, because I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. But it's one of those things where I like to heavily focus on that and go on site itself, because it allows me to talk more so about what the overall development. Right. So like our airport's 45 minutes away, so if I can memorize all the different developments coming in there, I'm adding value as soon as I pick them up from the airport to when we start showing property. Right. And it kind of builds that credibility. Right. I would say the biggest advice, I really think a drone at $900 right now, even if you're driving home and you realize you see a pile of dirt and people want to know what that is, you pop it up for 15 minutes and you start writing your script. Yeah. And I think it's that simple.
Yeah, okay. All right, we've talked about the infrastructure updates, and again, you can see examples on your channel. What is the next type of video that you would highlight?
I love a good community video. Again, it used to be the top of the funnel when I first started my channel. A lot of people want to know the areas that we service, and at the same time, when I started at 22, I wanted to create videos on the product I wanted to sell. Mm-hmm. So when I started creating videos on Watersound Origins, which is my number one farm, I guess, from a digital standpoint, I created the video about everything you need to know before moving to Watersound Origins, or Watersound Origins community video. And since then, it's allowed me to sell 7 homes in Origins since then. So find communities that either you strive to be in or you're actively farming right now. And again, that will passively prospect to the point, hopefully, that where people call you. And it really starts with, this is a lot of the times I do this with my professional crew that I have, but early on, I just went out there with my camera that we're recording this on, out here like this with a little selfie cam, and talked about everything that's going on. And I had the drone. Yeah. But usually start off with the intro saying how this community is actively standing out right off the bat. I always have like a no BS approach, like I don't need a fancy hook or anything like that, because everybody on YouTube, hopefully, is intentionally searching for that content. So from there, I'll talk about the kind of real estate opportunities that lie in that community. So whether that's condos, townhomes, single-family homes, attached units, people are curious to kind of see what the full array of opportunities look like. From there, hopefully, if there's an example that I can actually give inside it to kind of show the level of finishings, the custom home building, anything like that to kind of give, again, we're building credibility throughout this entire process. And then the amenities, like how can this community serve me that another community can? Because in our market, it's primarily rental properties. Right. So how can this make me more money than this community over there? Right. And at the same time, this hopefully will save me time driving people through the communities. Right. So we've gotten to a point now where someone said they're interested in 3 different communities, I can send them the videos on them, and they say, hey, we only want to check out community number 1. Right. So it saves me a lot of time. It's passively prospecting for me. And then we leverage that into the listing videos, which is that 3rd video. Yeah. And what I like about this is not only do we attract buyers, but we also use this now in listing presentations to kind of show, hey, not only, like Andrew Undum says, they have course marketing. Of course we're gonna do photos, of course we're doing videos, but so is everybody else. So here's actually how we're trying to bring buyers into the door by showing them the listing video. So a lot of people, agents, like to go through and say, hey, this is a kitchen, this is a bathroom, this is a living room, which is important, you know. So I usually start off with an intro, tell them why the house is important. Then I go into what I call my MLS overview. So talk about the details on the 1st floor, 2nd floor, but ultimately the next section is the value proposition. Right. Like what can this house do for me that other houses can? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it's like you're not trying to push the product, you're trying to push the solution that the product solves. And so by talking about these houses from an investment standpoint, as a primary residence, as a secondary residence, you kind of draw in, hopefully, for someone to call you. Yeah. And then it ends with an outro and a call to action, basically to an IDX feed, in which people can, you know, actively search on their own time. And I notice the main flow is if they don't call me directly, they'll sign up for that, and within 2 weeks they're calling me.
Right, yeah. Let's talk about this passive prospect. This is the most important part, in my opinion, is here we are, 24 years old now. You've been doing this for, what, 18 months now, roughly? 18 months. So you've been doing 1 to 2 videos per month. Starting up, and then we got to 4 to 6 a month now. 4 to 6 a month. So this is doable. Don't feel like you got to do it all up front. It does build over time. I know we've had those conversations. For sure. But now here we are. Look, the time's going to go. The difference is if you're posting on social media, people are just scrolling. You're disrupting them, but they're not searching. YouTube, they're actually actively searching, and you're giving that solution. So let's talk about what that looks like now. Passive prospect. What's been the value of this now? From that standpoint.
So this past 28 days, because that's how the YouTube backend looks at everything, we just hit 15 and a half hours of watch time per day.
per day.
Per day. So if I prospect 2 to 3 hours a day, realistically, I'm hopefully prospecting 18 and a half.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like, the goal is to eventually build a team where these leads are coming in to where I can work the surrounding 38 area and obviously support more people.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if I don't work, or if I'm busy showing property, or even if I'm working, it's all compounding,
Right.
whether I touch it or not.
Yeah.
And the goal, hopefully, is to keep adding enough videos to hopefully build that up to 24 hours.
Yeah.
Or where you're at. Talk about where
Yeah,
you're
well,
at
no, I mean, I would just say this. The biggest thing is that you can't, it acts as a filter. So for 15 hours a day,
Yeah.
people are watching your videos, which means that there are people that are watching that and going, that's not my guy, which is great. We can't make a living on maybes. It's yes or no's. And then there's another group that is watching that, and every time they watch it, it's like they're spending time with you, and they're like, we could do business with him.
Right.
Wow, he's bringing more value than somebody else. And like you say, here I am. I mean, you're a year and a half in. I'm coming up on 5 years into this where I've just been consistently doing videos. Yeah. And I checked it yesterday, and for every 10 seconds we're sitting here right now, somebody's watching videos of mine. So there's no way to build that brand in a way. And ultimately, we're in a business where, as a real estate agent, you got to be building a personal brand, and this is the best way to do it that compounds over time. This is a perfect example. You're watching this video now. You may be watching this right after we released it, or 5 years from now. I'll promise you the things that we're talking about and this blueprint that he's talking about, exactly how he does his flow, will absolutely work as we go forward. So let's talk about some of the important things that make sure that you maximize this. Well, before we get into that, let's give them an example of when this started. Because I think this is the thing that you have to understand, is how this can help you versus being in there just calling people, which is the way I built my business, was just beating the phones down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the first lead that you ever got.
For sure. And I'll say that YouTube is probably 50% of my business, right? And the other 50% comes by cold calling, pick up the phone. You still got to do both, right? Yeah. Especially if you wanted to compound on yourself. And early on, I had to gain that experience to hopefully talk and communicate effectively online. But it started off, I was probably 7 months in before I got my first lead. So it definitely takes time for the right people to find the right content. I was at the beach with my best friend and now my fiance, and we were just hanging out in the water. Come back to my phone, there's a 2-minute voicemail, and the guy was saying who he was, what he wanted to buy, how fast he wanted to move, and that he was coming to town. That was on a Saturday, he was coming to town on Tuesday.
He had seen the video.
He's seen the video on Waterstone Origin. So he saw the community videos, kind of knew an idea of what the products look like in the community, reached out to me directly, and then met him for the first time on Tuesday. Picked him up from the hotel, didn't have an idea what he looked like. They were an older couple. I pulled up, he knew who I was by my sunglasses and everything. And next thing you know, on Thursday, we're under contract for 1.65 cash. Close in 30 days. So, and that was the first lead that pretty much paid for all the video production I did the past 7 months.
Yeah, and that's one thing I would say is with video like this, be patient. And I'll give you an example. And you don't have to now because you've got this blueprint. He had to figure this out. We had to figure this out. There are tools and people out there that are telling you how to do it where you can eliminate some of this. For me, it took 14 months. 14 months to get my first 100 subscribers on YouTube. And I think we're almost 1,500 in the last 30 days. So this is the proper, you don't have to understand, you've got the tools and the technology to do this now way better than we did. Even he did 18 months ago. So just invest the time and the effort, and to me, there's nothing better that you can do. So what is that? And look, I know we've been through this a little bit. You have to understand these things come in phases as well. Tell them about, kind of having that little bit of a drought in the conversation we had, because I've been doing this a little while and understood.
Yeah, I think when you spend enough money on trying to do something and it doesn't have the immediate effect, especially me being at my generation, we kind of want the instant gratification. But it takes time to build, especially because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, there's no paid advertising. So it's all organic. So I'm basically waiting for the right buyers to call me directly. Because there's a lot of people that pretty much watch my channel, that keep up with me, that will call me after and they say, hey, we've been watching for 6 months. So there's going to be a little dry period, and that's when I rely heavily on doing the basics. And I think, especially as we transition into the post-NAR settlement, how do we show value to buyers? And it's putting the information like this, giving it freely so they can have a full understanding of what to expect. So when we go to have to get that agreement signed, they were going to want to sign it.
Yeah, and
that's the goal.
Whereas it took you 6 to 7 months, I don't know that it even takes people that long now. This is a perfect example. If you were going to invest in geographically farming, you would be anticipating that you're probably not going to get something the first few months. You may hit lightning in a bottle, and some people do on video. I mean, I've heard it with people, friends of ours. But understand, if you commit to this for 12 months, you're going to get some results, especially if you follow the pattern and the things that Noah's doing and some of the other folks are doing. And obviously there's nothing better I can think of that you could be investing in your business doing. Let's talk about, what did you spend that first year? What were the results roughly, if you can kind of give us an idea, because you did commit. Even though you had the skill, you understood that going ahead and hiring that gave you the time to do the other things.
Yeah.
So what would you say that
I would
looks like?
say, I think kind of doing it for the past 18 months, I think we spent spent $60,000 and in GCI net, or not net, but probably gross to 150.
Yeah.
Which is, if I'm doubling, tripling my investment, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and this is the front end part of the investment.
Yeah.
That's the thing you've got to understand. And we're in a high-end market. In reality, the expense that you're paying for videography and support is way higher than would it be in other places. So I would just encourage you, if you're out there and you're wondering, where should I be investing my money right now? I would say video. There's nothing better video-wise.
Yeah.
And this is an investment that continues to pay dividends going forward. Let's talk about that, because it's building like crazy right now. And this is the thing that there is a tipping point to this. When we're talking about the 6 to 7 months it takes, it's time for the algorithm to find you also. So let's go to the basics that can help people get their stuff found a little sooner. Let's talk about thumbnails. Let's talk about descriptions. Let's talk about some of the tags, those types of things.
For
if
sure.
you don't mind.
And I think the best part is that people have been on YouTube much longer than I have. When YouTube started in 2008, 2005. So people have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't have to reinvent anything. So I'll be honest, a lot of the ideas that I have and that I presented today are ideas that I've taken from other people and manipulated it to our market, which I hope you guys do. Manipulate it to our market and manipulate it to my voice. So I would say the biggest thing is, one, find your voice. Find and do reps to kind of get used to being on camera. But from a thumbnail standpoint, you're not reinventing the wheel. You don't have to do anything crazy. I keep mine relatively simple. I don't do the pointing. I don't do the flashy colors, because I think that people that I'm trying to attract don't need that. Because my average price point is 1.2.
Right.
And so it works depending on your market as well. So if it does work in your market that way, by all day, do it.
Yeah.
From a title standpoint, I really try to use ChatGPT up front. Started all sounding kind of the same. So again, leveraging the people that we know and trust, that I can call up and say, hey, what has worked for you in the past? So if that's one of, if you're stuck there trying to find a title, comment on this video, because we'll both be checking on it.
Absolutely.
So if you need title ideas, video ideas, or anything like that. And then I would just say, from a script standpoint, I think a lot of people use ChatGPT or use anything that's preset as copywriting online about a specific community, but I don't say exquisite, I don't say nestled, I don't say in the heart of, because that's not how I talk.
Right.
I talk like a 24-year-old, right? That grew up in Tallahassee. So my goal with my scripts is, when people meet me, I sound like the videos. So a lot of people have camera voice. So what I did was, when I hired my videographer, I wanted to make sure that he can give me active feedback when we're recording. If I say something, he's like, hey man, that doesn't sound like you. I want him to tell me stuff like that. Or if I say a word and, chances are I probably mispronounce it half the time, he's there to tell me, and he's not afraid to critique me, right? And so I would say, if the simplest tips that I can give is, one, find a videographer or a friend that you can trust. I remember practicing with my fiance Logan and being like, how does this sound? And she's like, that doesn't sound like you. I'm like, perfect, because I want that constructive criticism. So starting off with a phone on a tripod and then your friend sitting behind the camera, I think that's pretty much the cheapest and easiest way to start going.
Right, yeah. Let me break a couple of these things down for you. On the thumbnail is basically when you see a video, you see that it's the first picture you see. Now there's a couple things you got to understand is that is supposed to capture your attention. So a lot of times utilizing a great photo as a backdrop or a catchy few words on there. Having a picture of yourself on there helps, or someone on there. And typically, you mentioned the pointing and doing those things, but the numbers are, if you point towards something, because you'll see that some of our videos, it attracts the attention where it is or where the eyes are looking. So those are just little things, and that's why you see some of those things out there. The title is, you want to think the thumbnails to catch them and make them stop, and to get them to click through. The title gives a description of what it is, and it is also a tool that will help them find the video, because that's what the algorithm is utilizing, those keywords in there. So you want to make sure you're utilizing that. When you're using ChatGPT and you're asking it to write you a script, ask it to write an SEO optimized script for YouTube describing a home with these features or something along those lines. You just want to make sure you ask it to do the SEO work for you. Or if you've done it and you've got that, hey, convert this description based on this, on the audio. You can do those things as well. Make sure you're matching as best you can the audio that you're doing in the video to the description that you've got. And the reason being is the algorithm is looking for it to be synchronized, because that makes it understand exactly what the video is about a little better. So just be thinking about those things. And we're talking about tags. Tags are basically the keywords that you put in when you're uploading this into YouTube. Right. Now, if you're not sure about how to do this, look, there's tons of things. How to SEO optimize and upload a video to YouTube. If you just search that, I promise there's going to be somebody that's going to show you exactly the steps that you can take to do that. The bottom line on all of this is that when you have this, you have to be in a position where people can find you. Right. And what video does is it helps you be found in a new and a unique way. And it's going to just continue to get more and more valuable as we go forward. So as we wrap this up, what would you say to the person who's out there and just is like, I just hate doing video? What would you say to that? If you could go back, because that's kind of where you...
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people hate the way they probably look or sound on camera. But I always think, like, anytime I do a video, it's just going to be the same as if someone was walking there and they saw me and was like, hey, do you sell real estate?
Right.
And in that standpoint, I'm like, darn yeah, you know, this is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And so I can't change the way I look, can't change the way I sound, but I can control how much value I give people.
Yeah.
And I think that's been my main motivator for videos. And especially from a buyer lead standpoint, they're intentional. I think our average time from when we connect to when they're on a contract is about 14 days.
Yeah.
On the leads that we've actually closed. And then same time that we're working the buyers, we leverage that to attract sellers.
Right.
Because the seller wants to know exactly what we're doing, especially as the market looks a little different in each market. Our market's heavy on the supply standpoint, so how are we going to stand out in a sea of inventory? And I think there's nothing better than video.
Yeah, guys, I just want to encourage you, go follow Noah's channel. We're talking about when, you know, and don't feel like you've got to have millions of views and 10,000 followers. I know Noah's telling you with under 1,000 subscribers, he's generated over 150,000 GCI. And from that standpoint, the video that he was referencing on the first video, there weren't but about 500 or 600 views when that actually came in and he had that $1 million plus sale. So I just want to encourage you, take action. Get out there and shoot the videos. Get started on this process. Follow the pattern and the blueprint that Noah's giving you. If you want those details, we'll have more details and a basic breakdown on how to do this. Just reach out and we'll be glad to send that your way. Take care and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful and I'll talk to you soon.